Chakku is short for Chakapurukal. Chakapurukal, can you all say that? Ready? So Chakapurukal, it's kind of a house name. There's those of us with that house name, and the Chakapurukal house. This one man is the other Chakapurukal. He came to America to visit, he and his wife, and so everybody's laid out this great food on a buffet, and I'm in line. He and I are in line together eating first, and everybody, like 30 people, are waiting for us to get our plates. And he's getting his plate, and his is piled up like this, and he looks back at my plate, which is very selective. I have a few things. I love all the food that they put out, but I'm not eating it all. And he turns to me and says, he's actually scolding me. He's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to eat all the food that gets put out. They're doing this for us, why wouldn't you eat this food? And I said, Apachan, the fact is that I'm one of the last men over 40 in our family that doesn't have diabetes. I'd like to keep it that way. My father taught me that, Ever since he became diabetic, he started testing my blood sugar and making sure I knew how to do that. And this man that I'm talking about, this uncle, he's a doctor. He's a gynecologist. His wife's a cardiologist. Very educated people. Doing well in India, where we're from. And what he said to me surprised me, shocked me, in fact. I almost didn't know what to say afterwards. He said, "Oh, Chakku, you're going to get it. We're all going to get it. There's no escaping it. We're going to get diabetes. You might as well eat." Wow. Oh my God. In fact, because apparently there's a look in my eye that everyone notices in the family now, and they're all like, uh-oh, because I used to flip tables, they'd keep the tables down, And so that look must have been looking in my eye, because it got quiet. Everybody stopped talking for a minute. And they were wondering what I was going to say to them. And I said, well, actually, because I took a deep breath and I realized where he was coming from. And I'll explain that in a minute. But I explained to him, I said, look around here. Nidun, Naveen, I named a bunch of my family members. They were all pre-diabetic and prevented it, because we actually recognized it ahead of time as children and as adults, and we started doing something about it. All right? He hadn't seen that before. The reason he hadn't seen that before is because Kerala, where I'm from, the state of India where I'm from, is actually diabetes capital of the world. We have the highest prevalence in the world. Largely because of what we eat, the kinds of foods we eat, and so and the pace at which we eat it, and the quantities, and all of those things. Right? There's a lot of it. But my favorite foods are the foods that would cause me the most difficulty, and so he hasn't even known anyone to prevent this. So that's where he was coming from. His experience was, this isn't possible. His experience was, everybody gets it, even as a doctor. So I needed to recognize that. But I didn't need to avoid my truth either, right? And explain what was happening in this part of our family, and that things were changing. So there are 4 measures that I want to tell you about. It just so happens about a decade or more ago, Judith Hibbard and the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation started researching something called health activation measures. If you're familiar with them, great, I'm going to give you a quick overview. There are 4 of them. The first one is something that my uncle didn't have around his health activation. Health activation means actually, doing things and proceeding around things that are important to our health, right? So first one was to have a belief that you can actually do something or change something about your own health. So in other words, my uncle didn't believe he could actually change anything about his diabetes. Now, I've experienced that learned helplessness about my circumstances before. I thought I could never change who I was, and I thought I would always be a certain way. I thought I'd always do certain things. I always thought I'd be involved in certain self-destructive behaviors and habits. I thought I'd always be taking the wrong risks, right, in everybody else's eyes, things like that. So I know something about that. That's the first measure. The second measure I thought was really interesting is this measure of having knowledge and confidence about the kind of change. So do I know what to eat differently? Do I have confidence that I could find a way to eat differently? The third one is very simple. Do I start eating differently, right? But here's the get. The fourth one was the one that surprised me the most, and I thought was really the most important. And this is where it comes to us as a tool of thriving, something to really consider. The fourth measure is, do we do these changes? Do we engage these new strategies around our health when we're under stress? Wow. What happens when we're under stress? This is the one that worked. There's the ones that almost work, but they feel better, don't they? Because they're familiar. They're the ones I always go to. They're the ones I've worked on for 20 years. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. That I feel soothed. We call them our comfort foods, maybe. We call them, right? Whatever it might be. It could be the smoking. It could be the sitting. It could be the the different foods we like to eat. All of those things. So just soothing myself isn't enough anymore. Just feeling safe isn't enough anymore. So this is where some risk-taking at that level of thriving starts to come into play. But a third tool is necessary. We call it restoring. Restoring. Changing the narrative, rewriting the script. That means believing that who I was before may not be who I really am. Maybe there's a true nature that I am yet to uncover. Maybe there's a true nature to my family that is being still discovered and put into play here. Maybe there's a true nature to our community, to our movement that we're still discovering. So restoring means getting a chance to rewrite it, saying, well, yeah, that might have been who I was. We used to have a saying, when we did the Peer Bridger Project, we not only help each other get out of the hospital and stay out of the hospital, and you can add whatever word, prison, jail, RTFs, whatever, right, in there. But we now support each other to get the hospital out of us.